Algebra 1, Day 7. Today we're going to be talking about domain and range of discrete functions. So let's go ahead and get into it. You should copy this down on your notes page as well. So first of all, let's talk about what in the world is a function. So first thing we need to know about this is the word relation. And a relation is a set of ordered pairs, meaning x, comma, y. A function is a relation in which no x value is paired with more than one y value. Do not repeat your x's. Another way of saying that is x can only have one friend, but y can have a lot of friends. There are four ways that we can see a function. There are tables, scatter plots, mapping, or ordered pairs. So we could see them in any one of these, and we should be able to determine whether or not it's a function. Okay, so let's take a look at these two different mappings here. So let's look at this first one. It looks like 1 goes to 2, 4 goes to 5, 4 also goes to -5, 2 goes to 0. So my rule is that x can only have one friend. So always, every time you see a mapping, it will always be x's on the right, y's on the left. X is sometimes called my domain. Y is sometimes called my range. There's lots of different words. You know how people in math like to make things difficult. So over here, when I'm looking at my x's, I notice, wait a second, this 4 has 2 friends. This is not a function. So I'm going to look over here. Here's my x's, my y's, domain and range. I look, okay, 3 to -1, 0 to 0, -3 to 0, -6 to 2. Wait a second. That 0 has 2 friends. But as we noted up here, it's okay for that y to have 2 friends. We just don't want any x's to have 2 friends. So this is definitely a function. So the mapping on the right is a function because it has no repeating x's. The mapping on the left is not a function because 4 has 2 y values. Okay, so let's take a look at another example. So here's a set of ordered pairs. So what I like to do is I like to go through and just highlight all of the x's because I'm not used to really reading stuff like this. It's super confusing, okay? So I'm going to slice those in half. I'm going to look at the first set, 0, 2, -1, 1. That's a function. Okay, next one, 0, 2, 1, 0. Wait a second. They repeated that 0. That's not a function. So the ordered set on the left is a function because it has no repeating x's. The ordered set on the right is not a function because x equals 0 repeats twice, right? Also just known as repeating x's. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, sometimes people refer to x as the domain, y as the range. So whenever you're talking about domain and range, it's kind of a weird topic because a lot of times people don't really understand it. And in fact, when I was in school, I had no clue what these were because nobody ever really explained it to me. So the way that I like to think about them is that these are my limits. How far do the things on my graph go? What's the highest they go, the lowest they go, the furthest right, and the furthest left? So if I put everything onto a graph, all I have to do is just run something up and down how it goes, how far right, how far left. Those tell me my domain and range, okay? There's a very easy way to do this, and we'll be talking more about that later, but for now, we're just going to learn the basics of it. So domain, the set of all possible x values. Sometimes people also call my domain x values, input, and even independent variable. My range is the set of all possible y values. Other names are y values, output, and dependent variable. So, a great way to remember this is if I look at just the first letters, they're in alphabetical order, right? X and Y are also in alphabetical order. So remember, a lot of things in math are like that, where everything is in alphabetical order. So if you ever get them mixed up, because I know that sometimes I used to do the same exact thing, you can think about it and say, oh, well, they're in alphabetical order. So X, then Y, domain, then range. Okay. So let's talk about what discrete is. So the simple plain English way to say that would be a list of numbers. That means that there's specific points, okay? I guess the other easy way to say that is disconnected. So these would be separate and disconnected values. And this would be seen in things like mappings, scatter plots, and ordered pairs. And the type of notation we use for this is set notation, a list of numbers. So all these are is just a very specific list of values. These are not going to make graphs that continue where I could just hold my pencil down. So if I was drawing these kind of things on a graph, for example, let's say here, if I was trying to draw these on a graph, I'd have to go like this. They'd have to all be separated. That's discrete. Now, the opposite of that, or I guess the different form, is called continuous. That means, doesn't matter what it looks like, but every single one of those dots is connected, okay? So, discrete means I have to pick my pencil up, put dots everywhere. Continuous means I don't have to pick my pencil up and I can just keep going. All right, let's look at a couple more examples. So, first thing, here I see that they gave me a list of ordered pairs. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of my x's, and now I'm going to take a look at them, -6, -4, -5, +3. All right, good. So that's definitely a function because I don't see any x's more than once. Okay, my domain is going to be exactly those numbers, but I'm going to put them in order from smallest to biggest. -6, -5, -4, +3. All right, now they're asking, what's your range? Well, that's all the y guys. Okay, so let me go ahead and write those down in order from smallest to biggest. -6, -4, +5. Whoops, and forgot my -7. Let me go ahead and do that as well. And I got all of my range. Is this a function? Yes, it is. No repeating x's. X only has one friend in every single one of these pairs. So I don't see, for example, -6 anywhere else. I don't see two -4s in the X spot. All right. Let's look at this mapping. Again, always alphabetical order. X's, Y's, domain, range. Okay. So I'm going to look at these. Well, I noticed something interesting about this. These are already in order. These guys are already in order. So I don't have to do any thinking on that. My domain is going to be 3, 5, 7. My range is going to be -9, -2, +12, +20. Noticing that I'm just copying the numbers. So now I need to ask myself, is this a function or not? Well, let me look down here. And it looks like 7 is heading off to 2 friends. That's definitely not a function. No. X equals 7 has 2 y values. It repeated an X. Simple. All right, let's take a look at this one. Okay, here we have one on a graph. Okay, so this is going to be something a little bit different, right? But I'm going to make it as easy as possible. So first thing, they're asking me, what is my domain? So first, I'm going to take each one of these points, and sometimes I do this on my paper. They're kind of hard to read, but I draw a line down to my x-axis, right? That's y-axis up there. I draw a line down to my x-axis, and I just write the numbers in order because they're already on the number line. 1, 2, 4. All right. Now, go back. Let's take the same approach, and let's draw a line to my y. Oh, look at that. They all go to y is equal to 2. So this is a weird one. Is this a function? Is it not a function? Well, I'm not really sure. There's a different way to do this on a graph, and some people are able to look at these and know exactly what it is, and other people, like me, just don't. Okay, so what I like to do is, if you imagine this gigantic pink line here is your pencil, pen, whatever you're writing with, and you take it and run it across the graph. If at any point it touches more than one point going this way on the graph at the same time, it's not a function. So I see that it's never going to touch 2 points at one time. So this is definitely a function. And guess what? We just learned something else. This is called the vertical line test. And it has no repeating x's. So what this tells us is whether or not the x's repeat. This is called my vertical line test. So if I see something on the graph, I just run my pencil across it, see if it touches twice. If it does not touch twice, then I'm good. It's a function. All right. Thanks so much for paying attention. You guys go ahead and make sure and get these questions down, and we'll be collecting them next class.